All right, guys, welcome. I have now with me the lovely Andrea and Jeremy, and we are going to hear a little bit about their story with the lifestyle. So, how long have you guys been together?
3 years.
Just about 3 years.
Okay, and so were you guys previously, before you met, in the community in the lifestyle, or is this something you guys went down together?
So I've been in more of a sacred sensuality, sexuality circles and that kind of exploration on my own.
Okay.
So when we met, I had that foundation and the openness and the desire to connect with people was really present for me. So when we met and I said, this is kind of what I like, what I'm into, and he was like, cool. So we have a very structured, I guess, modified version of the lifestyle that fits for us.
Okay, so do you guys only play together, or?
Yes. Right now we only play together.
Yeah. So, if you don't mind me asking, are you bisexual, or is it more just
he's
strictly?
bisexual. I am more bisensual, so we're comfortable with people.
Okay.
Just kind of depends on the energy.
I like that.
Yeah, it really just it's always different. You never know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting because it's new, and I don't have any necessarily like a judgment or a definitive statement on it. But what I'm discovering so far is a lot of men that might be bisexual, even in this community, keep it to the down low because it still seems like, from what I keep hearing from other men that have said openly in like a swingers or a polyamory group that they're bisexual, that everyone's like, and they don't quite know what to do with
It's
it.
not quite as embraced as bisexual
Yeah.
women.
Okay.
So every
it's-
time we hear about somebody looking for a unicorn, it's never another man looking for another man to join a man and a woman. It's always a woman to be with some dominant
Right.
guy with two women or something.
So, do you find that challenging?
Yeah.
Like, are your needs being met just as much as, say, your partner's? Because it's easier, like you said, to find that aspect of it.
Yeah, nothing's missing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the part that's really important is I didn't have any experience in this before we met.
Yeah.
So when she told me she wanted something open, for us, what it really meant was she's got a lot of friends and relationships, and so do I. And I don't want to be one of those people that's like, now that we're together, you can't talk to your friends and none of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's been evolving. When she helped me realize, I'm like, oh, all these things that I've been doing and experimenting, I'm bisexual. And that's been a fantasy of hers for a while. So now
Yeah.
we've had a chance to experiment with it a bit and get to know what we really like or don't like.
Yeah.
So, have you guys encountered any challenges together as you've experienced this together? Or has it kind of been one of those things that's just been very easy to communicate about it, and it's just it's been easy?
Yeah, it's been easy for us from the very beginning of our relationship. We went into put everything on the table, talk about it. We're at this stage in our lives. We've been through a lot. Like, let's just be honest. Like, there's no sense hiding anything from each other at this point. Let's just see where we're at, what we want, and if this makes sense. And then we jumped in. And it's been good. So yeah, anything that's come up, we just talk about it. We work through it. We feel into it. See what happens. Yeah, and it's all good.
Because she and I had been already doing our own personal work before we met.
Yeah.
So our first date was like an interview, and we had the shared vocabulary, shared set of experiences. So when I told her I've been doing my work, she knew what that meant.
Right.
And so like nine months worth of chit chat,
Yeah,
we just
jumped
leapfrogged
in,
over.
like, yeah.
Because then we got engaged like 2 weeks later, and
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
We did.
So, are you guys out to your family, to your friends? Are you guys very...
Select friends. Like we definitely have a lot of friends that are in varying degrees, polyamory, lifestyle, whatever, just whatever they're on to. And we have a big variety of friends. But I think most of them know about it. Family wise, our kids all know. Like his extended family and parents are all gone, so that's not an issue. And like my side is kind of like over there in another state, so it's not even relevant, really.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I will say that my mom, as far as like someone who grew up in a very repressed kind of lifestyle, I've taught her so much just being me and the way I had my kids and all these different things, where she's like, you've taught me so much. So she would, if I said to her like, oh yeah, we have a boyfriend now and blah, she wouldn't even be surprised. Like she'd be like, oh, okay. That's
when
next.
I told my youngest child that
Youngest being 16.
Yeah.
So this isn't like...
yeah, she was asking me, is it normal to not think that my girlfriend's enough? Because we both had that conversation. And I'm like, no, that's actually fairly mature, because to think one person's 100% of everything, just nobody really believes that, even if they go to die on that hill thinking that was true. But yeah, when I told her, like, I've kissed men and women, she got all wiggly and she was very excited. And, it's just, it's interesting to have that kind of dialogue with your kids.
Well, the freedom in it, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to share with them from experience and letting them know that it's safe to have multiple different interests and thoughts.
Yeah.
And that's just it, is to genuinely love somebody for the human that they are, and not based off of the things that they do that you think that they should or shouldn't do on, some principle of this is what it's supposed to look like. Here's the rules. This is what I grew up with being told was right and what was wrong.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest struggle, is when you don't live your life to those rules, to feel so isolated, right? So, I mean, obviously the community itself is something special.
Yeah.
So what is it, the one thing that you guys notice and you feel the most from, especially the Hive? It's a social club. It's different than, say, a sex club.
Oh, it's so different.
Right?
Yeah.
So what is the biggest benefit that you guys feel that you get from being part of it?
It's just the freedom to express yourself how you are and what you're into, and to know that you don't have to have the "so what do you do" conversation with someone you just meet. You can just be like completely, everything's on the table already, and you both kind of know that already. So it's a freedom to just be authentic and open and transparent and talk about what we really want to talk about, instead of just surface, like a small talk kind of thing.
I think one of the fun things is we have a really, we made friends with a couple. They were visiting from another city at the previous location of the Hive.
Oh, yeah.
And when your first time meeting somebody is while you're having sex in the same room, you really don't have a whole lot of small talk to get through.
Yeah.
And now we have these like really close friends that I think we've only spent like maybe 3 times together hanging out and just talking. And it's like we've been friends for months, because we met in such mutual ground where everything was, there was no secret why we were there.
Yeah. And it's obviously something that it takes you something to get to in your own journey. You're not just going to walk in and, you see people who walk in who are new and they're curious and they're interested and they're like, I want to do this, but I have no idea what's going on. Like, how do I do this? How do I get to play? Let me be part of this. And it's fun to watch, and it's like, come on, it's cool. Come on in. It's fun. So it's good. Yeah.
We're really grounded spiritual people. So for us, the feeling things out, the energy of it's so different every time we're here. And so for us, we learn a lot about what works for us by being involved in so many other people's energy.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I could see that. And I've been to other clubs where you can tell the new people, because they are awkwardly standing off to the side and they're scared to interact with somebody, because the way that they're set up, those clubs, it's almost like the pressure and the expectation to have to want to sexually engage, or if somebody talks to you, that's what they're expecting, is to sexually engage. And so they're there and they're awkward and they don't know who to talk to, and they're scared to talk to people, because it's like, if I talk to somebody, then that must mean that we have to do something together. Whereas here, it's the exact opposite of that. It's like everybody's just sitting around in a home, in a comfortable setting, having a conversation about so many different things, and there's not that pressure and that expectation.
Because for us, the connection is far more important. Like, we're not...
Yeah, we're very selective about who we get really intimate with. And we want to get intimate way before physically. We want to get very intimate socially and like get to know people and like, what are you about? What are you into? How do you feel about things? And then the physical part makes sense, but like that's always secondary. Like it's.
I love that, because people assume the lifestyle is just about sex.
And I think for some people it is, just being straight up. For some people, there is that genre, and that's fine. But when you can pick it up, you can pick up on it. Like that's not what I'm into, so that's cool. You go to and you find the right people and you connect with the right people. Yeah. But I think that is like, there is definitely a piece of that subculture where it's very physical and it's very, I want to get satisfied now and who's available, and that's okay. If that's what people want to do. But it's always an assumption, I think. That's probably better to say, like, it's not all like that.
Yeah.
That's a piece of it. So.
No, for sure.
But it's just like everything else, it's like saying all movies are horror movies. There's little genres in every community. And there's different degrees of interaction in every community. So
yeah, because when she first told me that she's non-monogamous, and when she was explaining what that meant to me, I've learned how to listen before I have a bunch of judgments, because the only people I ever knew that were polyamorous before were just prancing pixie assholes, and I'm like, that can't be the only archetype for the whole thing. So when I find out what it really is like, it's been really amazing. Like, this kind of a conversation would not happen in my old vanilla life.
No, not at all. People struggle to talk about everything and anything that has to do with sex. It's so taboo to have desires and to have fantasies and to want to explore them that people can't even really wrap their head around the idea of it. So to have these conversations, it's funny because once you have these conversations with people, it just seems like there's no walls, and it almost feels like you've known these people for years and years compared to minutes. Whereas you meet people in different aspects of your life, and it just seems like there's so many walls up that it's just fake conversation. I'm telling you what I think you want to hear, and I'm telling you what I think you think is like cool, compared to this where it's like, I've just met you guys, but I feel because we've had such an open conversation, I mean, I could sit down and talk to you guys about anything. I could go bowling with you guys. I could go for dinner with you guys. And everything just feels like
next week's open.
There,
so.
right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Just schedule it in, right?
It is.
But it's different, and people are so they're not comfortable with being comfortable in those settings, and it's unfamiliar, right? It's new territory to have freedom in that.
It's terrifying for a lot of people that were brought up with a lot of fear and suppression, and we don't live in a culture that sex is normalized and cherished as like the powerful thing that it is. And we don't teach our kids that, and we don't communicate with them past a certain age. It's like, okay, we'll go figure it out. And then they're like, okay, resources. And they of course find all the wrong information, and the cycle continues. So unless we can like have these examples and set these examples, and even in my own life before we met, my kids got to see me with positive expressions with lots of people. Even when I was married before, and then between that, like all the time, like they kept seeing me with different people in this positive expression. Like, these are all people, I love them all. And there's different varying degrees of interaction in my relationships with these people. But the bottom line is, like, they're all part of my life, and I care about them. And just because we're together doesn't make any of that any less.
Right.
So it's a very advanced paradigm, I think, for a lot of people that are taught, like, this is how it is, and this is a little tiny little thing, and this is how it is, and you don't get to go outside of that.
Yeah. Which, in these atmospheres, in these places, people get to be themselves. Right? And how freeing. Yeah. Right?
Blow it up.
So obviously, being in the lifestyle and just learning and meeting people, people have different experiences. People have different, good, bad, funny, bloopers, whatever. And especially when it comes to sex, that happens in a regular relationship. So what would you say has been your guys' most memorable experience?
What you got?
Well, I didn't ever think I'd be in a bed with 5 people.
Yeah, I guess that was new. That was new.
Yeah.
It was one of those moments, like, it wasn't people we didn't know. It was people we did know that we had met a couple of times, and then, like, we were sitting on the couch, and then all of a sudden we were in there, and it was wonderful. Like, oh, that's what we're doing. And it was like little tiny conversations, consent, and little bits of things, and then it was like, okay. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So is there, like, as it's happening, obviously, and you're in that, setting, is like you said, is it little kind of stops along the way, like, hey, are you okay if I play with this person? Hey, is it okay with you if I continue doing this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we have really clear, a very small handful of very specific agreements together.
Yeah.
And we've never had any reason to, like, concern or, like, going outside of those. So whenever we're in those settings, we already know what's good.
Yeah, and it makes the whole situation safe and easy, and then there's not a question of, well, what if they are going to do this? Like, they're not going to. You've already said, like,
Right.
not going to happen.
Yeah, because
It's
one
just
other
easy.
man we met here that he's trying to think of, like, if I'm not saying anything I shouldn't say.
I don't know what you're
Yeah.
going to say.
He's like me, and so obviously everyone loves her, so we just went into the other room, and I think he had an idea that we were all going to have sex together. So we're just like, we don't. And
Yeah,
once we're in there, we're like, our rule is we don't have sex with people unless we've like gotten a lot more connection. So we did plenty of other things, but and when we go home, we don't like have that. Why did you let that happen? There's no arguments.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it's always like, what's interesting is we always end up feeling closer.
Mm-hmm.
And neither of us thought that was ever going to happen. Like, that was just one of those things that happened the first time we had another partner experience.
Mm-hmm.
The next day we woke up, they weren't there. That was just somewhere other place. We felt closer to each other, and we're like, I did not expect that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But it was a very trusting, special moment. Like, that was cool. Okay.
It creates a different type of a bond within
Yeah.
your relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I love that. I'm so grateful that you guys were willing to come on and just share with everybody listening and watching, and for them to be able to hear other people's, experiences. So I appreciate that, and thank you guys very much.
Absolutely.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us
Yeah.
on.
Yes, of course. Yeah, it was a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.